Gamers, what is up? I am Matthew Cross, also known as Dark1778, here for HoldTheLine.com, and this is the HoldTheLine.com podcast, episode 16, Gaming as a Social Activity. On this episode of our podcast, we'll be discussing yet another aspect of the gamer stereotype. Gaming as a social activity, be it local co-op, all the way to your multiplayer online on your various consoles or PC. However, before we get into our podcast, we are going to look at some community news and highlights. And I'm proud to announce that our editorial team is working on a brand new article series called HTL Presents Meet the Staff, in which you get to know our staff members and various community and team members that much more and more on a personal level than just by their handles on HTL. And the first two victims, interviewees, are done by Wastelander, our Almathea 327, and Noel. And for our HTL review highlight, Noel reviews Dead Space 3. Should this game have been flushed out the airlock, or is this a game that is actually worth giving a damn and playing? Find out by reading the review. And just a few more quick announcements for the community. I would also like to mention that we are still running our We Are Gamers campaign, so if you have audio, video, or text submissions, go to our forums and the link provided in the description and contribute there. And one final announcement, HTL will be doing a HTL Casual Gaming Night, in which us as a community will be gaming together on Steam, playing Team Fortress 2. So who doesn't like hats? Let's get some hats. Hats are fun. Hats make everything better. And now I present the HoldTheLine.com podcast of pantless pandas running around playing the Nintendo Wii. So, HTL community and gamers, welcome to the HoldTheLine.com podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Cross, also known as Dark1778. And with us we have Michael Byrne from MMO Bomb, who is the editor-in-chief. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be here. I appreciate the invite.
We have Baron X2, also known as Get To It Gaming on YouTube.
Well, hello, everyone.
We have Gilleous, our community member.
Good evening.
And we have our own editor-in-chief, Rachel, for the editorial team.
How's it going, community?
And HoldTheLine.com podcast episode 16 is about gaming as a social activity. What have we all been up to? As far as just life in general, gaming, whatever you guys want to talk about. So we'll go with Mike first.
Pretty much in gaming, it's just been Neverwinter and SimCity betas, and 900 other games that are in beta that probably shouldn't be.
More like pre-alpha.
Yeah, and the latest trend of pay us $60 to jump in beta. Get the hell out of here! You're out of your damn minds. But other than that, just working and hanging out with the family, so can't complain too much.
Baron.
Gamers! I have been working a little bit on Skyrim, and I just got my Super NES, so I've been playing Super Mario World non-stop for the last couple of days. I've put down Skyrim for a bit, and and I'm waiting for Mega Man X to come in, so that's what I'm doing.
Gilleous.
I've been playing Warlock, Master of the Arcane, and Crusader Kings 2. Sort of my fallback two games when I don't have something else to play that's recent. And I've been recovering from a series of nasty colds. So,
sorry, dude.
Rachel.
Okay.
Sadly, since the last podcast, I actually really haven't had much time to game. Work's been kind of crazy. Had parent-teacher conferences this last week, so worked a lot there. I, too, was sidelined by a pretty nasty sinus infection, so haven't really done a lot of gaming, but I've got a 4-day weekend this weekend, so I plan to finally play Dead Space 3 with my husband since he's already beaten it twice. So get some co-op in with that and probably continue my Resident Evil 6 No Hope playthrough.
Yeah. As far as gaming, the only thing I've really been doing is messing around with the Steam Linux client, and that's pretty much really all I've been doing. As far as life, well, kind of like you, Rachel, it's pretty much been work and hanging out with friends occasionally. That's pretty much about it. So, with Rachel mentioning co-op, that brings us into the topic at hand. With that said, we're going to be taking a look at yet another aspect of the gamer stereotype of gamers being socially awkward or socially inept, however you want to word it. This seems to be quite a stigma still held on by a good amount of non-gamers when the topic of gaming or gamers in general comes up. Why is this kind of association still brought up when gaming for a long time has had things like co-op?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, but there's too many people in Skype. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. Not socially awkward. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I misread the question. No, I just think it kind of goes hand in hand with a little bit of a bigger issue. Not so much gaming, but just technology in general. Same type of stigma. PC gaming, PC programming, software creators. We all have this image of them. They work in a cave. It's them at their little cubicle. They are typing the same way. We've got this gamer image, mom basement. And I think to a certain extent, we kind of did this one to ourselves, didn't we? Think back to, speaking of us, our generation. We're all roughly in the same age group here. Think of how gaming was when we were younger. You know, in most cases, the parents didn't let you hook that newfangled thing up to the living room television, right? It was hooked up in the basement, or hooked up in a bedroom, or hooked up in an attic. And so that generation that grew up knew that they may not be a gamer, but their brother was, and he was in the attic playing his game for 10, 16 hours a day, and I never saw him. We kind of did that to ourselves, and then never really let it out there that, hey, now they're all hooked up to our living room. I have 3 children of my own. All the systems are in the living room. It's more of a social thing now than it was back then, but we never got away from the way our parents made us set this stuff up way back when.
I don't know. I was actually lucky. Mine was hooked up in the kitchen when I was a kid.
In the kitchen?
Yes. Well, actually, it's kitchen and the eating area, and it was kind of relatively big. So, and we had to share bedrooms between the siblings. So the best place to hook up, my father conquered the basement, so that was off ground. So it was set up in the kitchen.
I'm jealous. I would have loved to have eaten breakfast and got my Zelda on. That would have been awesome.
Oh yeah, it was like next where I sat to play was the same seat I used to eat. So.
But I don't think it's exclusive to gaming, though, right? I mean, it's anything tech-based. If you're not a computer programmer, what's the image of a computer programmer you have? That's socially awkward, glasses taped in the middle, in a cubicle, off to the side. And gaming just happens to be a huge technology piece right now, so it gets lumped into that same category.
Yeah, I think that's sort of related to it. It's as in, I think most people see gaming or a computer or anything related to electronics as a introverted activity. So they immediately assume, well, if you're an introvert, you're socially awkward. So it's sort of like a linked stereotype, which is kind of ridiculous because I've met a lot of socially capable introverts and very socially incompetent extroverts. But, you know, the stigma is there. People go, okay, this is an introvert activity. And here, I'm not going to try to guess if it's true or not. If introverts are drawn to gaming, but, you know, it sort of gets attached to the social awkwardness that people assume introverts are known for.
Yeah. I mean, I might be socially awkward, but I'm definitely not an introvert. I mean, I perform close-up magic and stage magic and act and on stage and do all this other stuff, but I'm a huge, huge gamer. I mean, I wouldn't work for a gaming website unless I was.
Yeah, but see, that would be the second misconception is, you know, as I said, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's obviously there are extroverts that game just as much as there are introverts that don't game. And so it's like a double false or double false pretense. Like, are introverts actually socially awkward? Maybe not. And do gamers all introverts? Maybe not. But somehow these two stereotypes get linked up together with gaming.
Yeah, and I think it is generational, too. I mean, I think as we move 10 years down the line, while there still may be the gamer stereotype, I don't think this is going to be so much a part of it. It's just right now the age group of people that run the company, the big companies and the governments and things like that, they come from the age group when gaming was a single player thing. And maybe you had a friend over that sat and played with you every once in a while, but there was no online multiplayer co-op and all that stuff. Walk by somebody with your new Nintendo handheld and suck the information right out of their pants pocket. I mean, none of that stuff was around. And I think as we get like 10 or 15 years down the road, as we become older and my children become older, it's always been a multiplayer thing to my children. And I think that's this part of the stereotype's going to fade with age. Just maybe the entire stereotype won't, but I think this piece will, as a new generation of what gaming is, they grow to take over companies and things like that.
Yeah, Mike, what you said, I work doing tech stuff, so I definitely understand what you mean when the generic thing for most IT guys or people who are programmers or system admins are basement dwelling vampires.
Yep.
Would be about accurate.
But like how many, and just not even to gaming, but how many of you guys on here have interacted at work in some capacity online, right? Where you've never met somebody you're talking to, but you constantly email or IM or send files back and forth. And then when you do happen to meet each other, if you were the tech end of that relationship, which I am in my day job, I'm a database administrator and software engineer, I can't tell you the number of times when they, oh man, you aren't at all what I thought you'd look like. And it's just because of that preconceived notion of what my profession is, of what I should look like, and gaming just suffers from the same type of thing.
Yeah, most definitely. And to me, it's a pretense, and it's like, believe it or not, we're not all like that. I deal with networking, and I'm tattooed up the wazoo, and whatever. Friggin', it's the stereotypes is dumb, and it makes no sense. Any of the stereotypes that float around about specific groups, but Rachel, gaming has been used as a social activity between gamers for long time. Things like local co-op sports games, fighting games, etc. With the boom of the internet and the integration of the internet into these games, does that stigma kind of still apply of socially inept gamers? Because we're basically always connected now.
I think in certain respects there is still that stigma. I know when I see my friends saying, bringing up, oh yeah, having a LAN party this weekend, back before there was, being able to log onto your system at home and play with somebody, from the other side of the country, when you had to actually bring your systems over, or you brought your PCs over and you all played, on a LAN and everything like that. I can remember doing that in high school with friends. And so there's almost even still for me to have that oh wow, total nerd fest, we're having a LAN party. But at the same time, that was some of the best times gaming is when we'd have, and even when I was playing an MMO, we'd still have a bunch of people over and so it's like a LAN only we're all playing an actual online game together. But it was almost different in a lot of respects that we got to play and we were still sitting right next to each other. So I think there still is that stereotype, but at the same time, some of the most fun that I have had gaming has been gaming with other people. I can remember I worked for a game retailer when I was in high school and college, and it wasn't uncommon for on the weekends to have a bunch of people that I worked with, over, and we would play, Soul Calibur 2 or Burnout or Tekken Tag and things like that, and just take turns, and it was just a great time. And I've met some really wonderful people gaming online. People that came to my wedding, and the first time I met him was when I picked him up from the airport. And, one of my husband's groomsmen was a guy we gamed with. First time we met him was at our wedding. And we're still in touch. So I think that the stigma is slowly going away, but at the same time, I think that it still is there. And I think the point was made earlier that I think the longer we get away from our generation, that stigma, I think, is going to eventually go away.
I gotta say, I'm kind of part of a small group that didn't, have the game system set up in the basement or something like that, or in my room. That wasn't allowed. It was usually in the living room, unless, my dad had his own chill spot, so he had all of his stuff in there. But growing up, all the consoles and stuff like that. I mean, we only had like 3, and my dad was a big tech guy, so we got the latest stuff. But my folks were always conscious of what games to get me, because they actually paid attention to the ratings. And as far as like the local co-op stuff, I didn't really have. I really I feel left out here, because I really didn't have a lot of friends who came over. The few times that I did, and we played video games, it was fun. But I don't really know what it's like to have a LAN party. I think I started playing online when I was in college, and that was Halo. But it's kind of funny, because the people that I played Halo with were all on the same floor, and we have our single rooms, but we keep our doors open and yell at each other through the hall. And so that was an experience for me. So
you never had a LAN party?
No.
Oh,
I didn't know what that. I didn't know what that was.
Let me start disconnecting some stuff here. I'll be right over.
I never had those experiences until late in college, and like my first online experience was on the Xbox 360, Halo 3, and like what I just described to you. So as far as the boom in the internet and stuff like that, yeah, I really do feel as though that stigma no longer applies, because excuse me, because actually, you know what? I misspoke. I do feel a little bit like the stigma applies, like, gamers are so isolated and stuff like that, because, like it was said earlier, we kind of put ourselves in this position by kind of isolating ourselves, by putting our systems, in places where it's away from everybody. So to me, it's not always the case, but to me, with the boom of the internet and the rise of online gaming, I feel like it promotes more of a, okay, play by yourself, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's my take on it. Yes and no, but more yes than no.
I think it just me. I just was thinking about it, and I think in a lot of respects, gaming companies are almost pushing away that LAN party atmosphere and that social aspect of having people come over to play, because a lot of games are going away from having local co-op. I mean, and one of the things, since my husband and I are both big gamers, that it's like being able to play games that that we can play together. I mean, yeah, I like watching him play games and things like that. And I mean, like, I liked watching him play the first 2 Dead Space games, but I will be the first to admit that I am the worst person to play survival horror games. I am so jumpy, and I would probably end up throwing the controller at the screen, because I'd be like, I'm getting swarmed, oh my god. And so for me, those games, I don't want to say they're not accessible to me, but I am less likely to play them single player. And now the fact that it's, that it has that co-op option, I'm able to play. However, the only reason I'm even going to be able to play Dead Space 3 co-op is because we are fortunate enough to have 2 systems, because it doesn't have local co-op. And I can't tell you how many times over the years, because it's only recently within the last year that we purchased a second system. It's really difficult to find games that have local co-op. And so it's almost like they're trying to push it away and be like, nope, we want this gaming to be a single player experience, and no, we don't want this to be a social aspect, or, you can only play online. And that, I personally have a big problem with.
But, and just to, like, devil's advocate on this one, though, is that the gaming companies pushing it away, or is that the gaming companies reacting to what the market as a whole has shown it wants. I mean, the companies, I can't believe the companies are going to do anything that's going to cost them money instead of making money. So are they being just more reactionary to what gamers as a whole are saying they want in that online environment and multiplayer that way, and not so much LAN party anymore? Or do you think they're actually the ones saying, look, we don't want people to be able to do this, and if you do want to do it, we at least want to make some more money off another console and another box sale?
I think it's maybe a little of both, to be completely honest, because, I mean, and I don't know with what I'm about to say, because I am not a game developer, and I don't know how difficult it would be, but if you allow co-op in a game, how difficult is it to have it be local co-op versus online co-op? I don't know if, so if you allow for a game to have online co-op, is it really that much more difficult to have it be local co-op? And then you also run into with some other games, like I know Borderlands 2, it had local co-op in the first one, and it was great because you could still save your stuff, and same thing with the second one. But the second one allowed you to be able to play online on the same system with other people and everything like that. But if you're the second player in there, you're not allowed to save your gear. So it's one of those things of it's like, oh yeah, well you can do this, but if you want to play for it seriously or for the long term, then you're not really going to be able to save your equipment. So to me, and maybe this is just me being, negative Nancy here, but, I kind of feel like they're being greedy and they want to make more money. So, well, if you want to play co-op, then you need two systems, and you need, we're playing on the 360 for Dead Space, so, well, you need, another live account, and you need 2 copies of the game. You know what I mean? So, but I might be wrong. It might be a combination of both.
Fair enough.
I just have a question here. Wouldn't the online versus local playing give companies, developers, publishers more money in the long run? I understand that consumer demand is what they're trying to meet as well, but it seems like they're making a crap ton of money off of this. Like, with the memberships, you want to, like you just said, you want to play and, keep this gear and stuff like that. Well, you need another live account. Well, you're going to need to buy the gear. Oh, well, you're going to need to buy your own game. You're going to need to buy your own console, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I think money plays a big part into that too, right?
Oh, certainly. That's why I asked the question. Is it companies just trying to push that a little more to make more money, or is it in reaction to what they think the mass market prefers out of LAN party versus online play type thing?
Personally, I think
in the end, it's definitely a dollar's decision one way or the other. Is it a dollar's decision they're making simply to make more money, or is it one they're making based on what they think gamers want? Was more my question.
Well, personally, I believe it could be, like as being said, it's a bit of both columns. As I said, a lot of people now, with the proliferation of gaming consoles, almost everyone who is a gamer has a console. So the multiplayer and playing it online seems to be convenient. And then companies are going like, well, we're making more money this way. So the few, or those, might not be a few, but maybe they're going like, well, those who don't want to upgrade, well, we could encourage them to upgrade so they can make more money. So sort of you get this sort of twin pressure. It's more profitable, and there is a lot of, let's be honest, there's a lot of people who have switched to playing like online. I mean, yeah, getting a LAN party is cool, but if I could stay at my house and I call up my friend and he hooks up his Xbox and we both go online and we play the game online, and let's assume the net connection's pretty good, why do a LAN party? And then sort of like having this sort of pressure in both directions.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is companies trying to expand beyond the core base, unfortunately, amongst their core fans or whatever you want to call them, or the core customer. And they're trying to bring in, more cash flow is really what it boils down to at the end of the day, regardless of the reasoning for the cash flow. But on the same note, they're pushing out the core customer, which is a dangerous kind of business plan to do. You can try to broaden your base without basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater out the top story window, and
Well, it's like Rachel said. I mean, you basically, you already, okay, it's fine, have the multiplayer, great. I mean, have all these features, but, if you already have all that, why not just have the normal LAN co-op? I mean, is it really that much harder? Is it like, does it cost them like 30% of their budget to add that in? And if not, then just put it in, leave it there, as an option. Why take the option away?
Yeah, and just so we don't get flamed by viewers here, I mean, everybody on this panel is aware that you can fake a LAN in your own network. We all know that, just so people don't start commenting and, these guys didn't know what they were talking about. Yeah, we know. We're just talking about it being a default setting in the game.
I had no idea.
I just love YouTube comments, so I just wanted to make sure everybody on the panel here does know ways around it, of course. We're just asking for it to be default still.
Yeah, we're talking about, hey, look, you used to be able to go into, like, Diablo 2 and do a local LAN with somebody, or, StarCraft, the original StarCraft, let me rephrase this. You could go in and set up a LAN with someone down the road or whatever, or you could do sitting in your home and networking your own computer, do whatever, but you can't do that kind of stuff anymore. It's all got to be around that company's services and stuff, and that's kind of what we're really talking about. And
to play devil's advocate with that as well in certain respects too. I mean, the fact that I, moved halfway across the country, and so a lot of the people that I back in the day used to LAN game with, I don't live near them anymore. So the fact that I still have the opportunity to game with them online makes, is wonderful. So, I'm not somebody sitting here, being like, I hate online gaming and I never want to do it. I mean, there is certainly, pros and cons to both, but there is something, to be said for, having a group of people in here and having that social aspect and having the conversations outside of just gaming. I mean, heck, I remember in my senior year of high school convincing my AP Calculus teacher to let us bring in electric skillets and Xboxes if we did really well during the week on Friday, and we'd sit there and, hook two Xboxes together and play Halo instead of doing calculus on Friday. I mean, that was pretty awesome.
Man, my school sucked.
Seriously, right?
I mean, you guys have consoles in your kitchens, and schools let you bring Xboxes in. Making me question where the hell I grew up, man.
It's not all gifts. I mean, my math teacher made us watch country music videos in math class, so it's not all bells and whistles.
Okay, so video games are pretty much in a good portion of our daily lives. About, 40% of all U.S. households have some type of console, not including laptops, tablets, or smartphones. As gaming becomes more ubiquitous, has it almost come to the point where it's one of the social norms now?
Yeah.
A little bit. I'm going to just, I think it's becoming more of a social norm, although with all the people that are attacking it, you really couldn't see that. It's more of a social norm than it was 20 years ago, but it's still getting flack and negative comments because people need something to blame, obviously. But my issue comes when it's getting more flack than all of the other entertainment genres, as opposed to just being a social norm that everybody's okay with. Because there's a lot more wrong with the world than these little fantasies, than these jumps into other realities or other dimensions or something like that. So so not counting laptop games, tablet games, smartphone games, which I do think are taking over, by the way. I really do feel as though it's becoming more of the social norm that we want it to become, but it's also taking on more stereotypes and more just negativity than we want it to.
Well, I'm not entirely surprised that actually happened, because back in the 80s, it was like action movies were getting a lot of flack But here's the thing. Back in the 80s, everyone went to watch action movies. Like, even my mother went to watch action movies. But then it was still getting flack. So I think gaming sort of, like, became that, where it's a bit of a norm. You see it prevalent. You know, I think most of these people who blame gaming probably have, like, siblings or maybe even children who game. Or maybe, heck, they might have even gamed a bit themselves, like, you know, light little games. But, you know, when something happens, they're first to jump in and try to blame it, because maybe it's just, like, so new as a norm. It's like the new norm. Like, it's on top of the list.
Yeah, and to your point, there's a generation. There's something in each and every generation that, excuse me, that kind of defines what is corrupting society, especially here in the West. I mean, in the U.S., we don't like to we don't like to take personal accountability for anything, right? As a whole. So I take accountability. Everybody on this panel takes accountability for their actions, but as a whole, Western society likes to find another thing to blame. And this generation's is gaming. You mentioned in the 80s it was, you know, the movies and the action movies. Prior to that, it was rock and roll. And prior to that, it was the damn radio. Little orphan Annie's talking to kids about shooting things with a BB gun. Oh, good Lord, society's on its way out.
And the funny thing, rock and roll was super popular when it was actually being blamed for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Just look at, we're got a little behind-the-scenes chat going here. Beatles just came up in that chat. Go back and look at some of the articles that were coming out in the press when the Beatles were becoming big, and while they were big. There's millions of anti-Beatles music articles from around the world. It's finding that thing to blame. To me, gamer is actually losing its definition as a whole. When we were younger, it was, okay, a gamer was somebody that did this. We knew X, Y, and Z. They played this, they did this, they exhibited this type of hobby. They liked this hobby. To me now, it's almost like the word cook, right? Everybody on this panel and listening to this video is a cook in some respects. You may not be a chef, because that's the professional version of a cook, just like you may not be a professional gamer. But everybody on this panel and listening is a cook of some type, whether it's using the microwave or making a 3-course meal for your family. Everybody that's listening to this and will never ever listen to this is a gamer. It's just a question of extent. Are you that person that sits there and plays 5 hours each night on the MMO of your choice? Or are you the person that plays 20 minutes of Fire Emblem each day on your Game Boy to and from the bus ride to work? You're both gamers at this point. The person that's playing Angry Birds on their phone while listening to us, deal with it. You're a gamer. Sorry. You may not be to the extent that I am, but you're a gamer. And I think everybody is starting to fall into that category. It's just a question of extent at this point, isn't it?
I just want to... That was our I have a dream speech for you guys listening out there. That was our, you know, they may take our lives, but they can never take our freedom kind of thing. So, just, you know...
Hold on, I tried to get off my soapbox here.
You guys better watch yourselves.
I was going to say, doesn't Goose have a take on that? You can take our lives, but they can't take our continues.
Oh. No, it just made me think earlier, you know, when we're talking about, you know, everybody's got something, you know, or they look for something to blame. You know, I mentioned earlier parent-teacher conferences, and if anybody read the Meet the Staff article in which I was the first victim, I am, in fact, a teacher. I teach 6th grade. And when I was getting my teaching license, and then when I was getting my master's, and I'd be sitting in courses, and they would be talking about, you know, inevitably, you know, video games would come up, and about how, you know, I don't necessarily think anybody used the word evil, but, you know, it would come up, and, oh, how it's corrupting kids, and all this other stuff. And, you know, being somebody who is a teacher and who is also a gamer, I was like just this, you know, odd person out sitting in there, because, you know, and I would just raise my hand, and it's like, I play video games. What do you think, you know, does that change your perception of me now knowing that I'm a gamer? You know, do I come across as any different? I mean, in a lot of respects, it allows me to connect with my students in another way. I had a student when I was teaching 5th grade, and he had done a science fair project, and he was talking about, he had been playing Halo, and he just said, oh, it was the, alien battle rifle or the sniper rifle or something like that. And I was like, why didn't you just call it, the Covenant rifle or something like that? And he just looked at me, and there was another group of boys from my class standing around, and they all just looked at me, and it was like they got this wide-eyed look. You play Halo? And I was like, yeah, I've beaten every single one. And it was total new page, suddenly new respect. And the fact that, another one of my kids who, he's a smart kid, but he's kind of that hard to handle. The fact that one of my 6th grade students is playing Call of Duty or Borderlands, no, not really. But is he able to come in and say, hey, I was playing, Mrs. E, I was playing Borderlands this weekend, and I got stuck on this boss, and, what should I do? And I was like, oh, you should try this. You know what I mean? It's it allows me to have a different connection with my students, and it's almost an asset to me that every other teacher in my building doesn't have. I am the only one that can do that. And I think to immediately jump all over that, and the fact that I'm able to bring that to other teachers' attention is incredibly important. And also pretty cool.
Ask really quickly, do you catch a lot of issues with that? Because that I'm thinking from a parent standpoint, even though I'm not a parent, but I've seen this before where the parent will sort of kind of give you grief because that's the type of relationship they don't want their kids to have with the teacher. Like my father would say that your job is to teach blah 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 blah, and my job is this. But in terms of making that connection with your students, I mean that is positive. But do you catch a lot of grief for that?
No, I've never once had a problem with it because I think I work at what is considered, I work at an inner city school, I work at a hard-to-serve school, and I work with a very difficult group of students. And I think any leg up you can get, and to have a teacher that can make a connection with them. The parents, I thankfully, even though it is a hard school, I have really wonderful parents. And anything that I can do to help their kid, and if it happens to be that, I can make a crack at, you are not Master Chief, stop teabagging, there isn't a corpse there. If I can... Not kidding. I've said I love this story, because I had 2 students in the back of my room, and they were making that motion, and I just, in front of my whole entire class, I was like, "You guys are not Master Chief. There is not a corpse there. Stop teabagging." And I have never once caught flack for it. So, I mean, it's as of right now, it's been an asset and not a detriment.
Cool.
So I think to answer your question, yes, teabagging is normal. That was the question, right?
Apparently in Halo and Planet Side 2 is obviously a new one that they decided to incorporate a lot of that into as well.
Oh, jeez.
and also in Almathea's class.
Yeah, well, apparently
it's been implemented there in a recent patch.
Patch 2.2.
Patch 2.2, the teabagging patch.
Who are some of the people that you yourselves game with as a social activity, be it over the net or local? Friends, family, whatever.
Well, I actually met my husband playing a video game. So, for me,
that's so cool.
I was the guild leader, actually. So, yeah, I met my husband playing an online, an MMO. And, I mean, we've been, as my little interview states, we've been together almost 7 years, married for almost 4 years. So I mean, pretty successful at this point. I game with one of the guys I met on HTL on a pretty regular basis. And, same thing, people that I used to work with when I worked video game retail. And even just some people that you just happen to meet. One of the guys that my husband works with, we've played like Borderlands and Halo and stuff like that with him. Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I've gamed with a lot of people over the years. I made some really, really great friends, actually, really great.
I kind of, obviously, I do a lot of MMOs, right, for MMOBomb.com. That's my thing. Love them, all types. So there's that whole aspect of every friend I've ever had online is probably an MMO friend, and we bounce from game to game to game to game. But in my daily life, my wife is a gamer of all types, MMOs, consoles, other PC titles as well. And then we have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, 11, 9, and 5. And we use it as, a family thing. I remember sitting and playing board games or card games at night with my parents, or watching some movie as a family. And that's just, that's the technology that we use today. And so my kids and I and my wife, we play video games. We don't whip out the Candyland board game. We boot up Candyland on the arcade, and away we go. We play it there, or we're playing the Wii or the Xbox or whatever. So it's huge as a family building thing. The kids look forward to game night. And I did when I was little. We just played a different game. It's the same thing with just a different medium.
I definitely played a lot with my dad when I was younger. Nowadays, I don't have proper connection, so I can't really play with anyone. So I have extra controllers. If anyone wants to come over, I'm that sad.
LAN party at Byrne's.
Yeah,
LAN party.
Kidding, man. This has got to happen now.
Oh, and bring your own TVs, because, I only have one.
All right, now the requirements list is getting a little out of hand here.
Well, you're also going to have to bring your own Xbox, too, apparently, so you can set...
Yeah, right?
We're going to need 70 feet of Cat 5, guys. Come on.
I'm pretty sure I have a box of it, just saying.
Nice.
I was going to say, given what your husband does, Rachel, would surprise me. Yeah, I can go get some from work.
I said, a bit like Mike, I play a lot of MMOs, or played. At the moment, I'm sort of in an MMO hiatus. But like when I play an MMO, I'm very social in the MMO. Like I make friends, like a lot of friends. Like some of them actually become like transition to out of the MMO. Like we're friends, and like they end up being on my Skype or whatever, tele message service. And I even actually met one person in real life, as in they actually lived in my region, and we became friends in real life. So back in my days, though, when I was younger, back in the the forsaken days of gaming, I actually, a lot of times, my friends, we would come over and we would play like the old SNES together. So and like it was like a common pastime after class, where we would just like I go to their place or they come to my place, and we just play together. So
I think what ends up, I think what's really interesting is the fact that, and it's not necessarily, gaming in respect, but Matt and I, met on HTL. Turns out we grew up, 40 minutes apart, if that?
Yeah, not even, let's see, about 20 minutes from where I am right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't live there anymore, but it's like, yep, next time I go back to visit my family, get to throw a dictionary in his direction.
Oh, come on. I haven't misspelt anything intentionally yet.
Uh-huh.
Don't make me.
I just lie in wait.
I was going to say, for those that don't know, Rachel's pet peeve is one that I intentionally do, is use internet lingo. Hey, I could use Maynard lingo.
Maynard lingo was one thing. But I'm sorry, and it's my turn to get on my soapbox. If you're updating a Facebook status from your smartphone, that means you have a full keyboard. Write out U. Don't just write the letter U. Oh, okay. Soapbox. Head put away.
Okay, put it away. It's all right.
Hey, that's okay. For those of you who don't know, in chat, they're spelling color with a U and honor with a U. That's okay. I used to drive my high school English teachers crazy because I used to do that. And they try and mark it wrong.
I'm that guy on Facebook that if you get your and your wrong, I'm going to call you out and be that guy. So I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with you on this. Y-O-U-R and Y-O-U''RE are my huge pet peeve.
The best was getting to edit some student work this week, and the fact that I was a real stickler and didn't allow them to start a sentence with but or anyways and things like that. And the fact that want, somebody tried to make a contraction, and they didn't even know what a contraction was. They thought I meant contraction like I was in labor.
And for those that want to know our editor-in-chief's opinion on having children, check out the...
Yeah, I was going to make a comment, but then I read that interview, and I was like, yeah, the comment won't be as funny if you actually read the interview and knew her opinion.
Actually, that article is the HTL article highlight. You're welcome,
It was
Rachel.
nice. I was impressed you guys got John Lithgow. I mean, that's kind of a score on your part, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was pretty honored. I mean, it was pretty great. Not going to lie.
For those that want to know all the inside jokes that we're talking about, I'll provide you with the link in the description.
If you too want to be cool, follow the link.
Yeah, please. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Get that from the site.
It is. It's on the front page.
No, it's not on the front
Sorry,
page
I don't
anymore.
pay attention.
It's not on the front page anymore. It's on the second page.
Oh, sorry. It got moved.
Yeah, there's been too many updates. I think I myself pushed it with my last article.
Oh, the news segment. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
At some point down the road, do you feel like gaming will either as a family, be it local activity or through family and friends over the internet, as a social activity, finally put this notion that anyone who is labeled a gamer does not know how to interact with real people?
As long as they're not on Call of Duty listening to that chat, yeah.
Oh, well, okay. That is using COD as an example is not a good one.
Well, speaking, can I off track here just for a second? Speaking of Call of Duty,
you go ahead.
I was at like maybe 48 hours before you had graciously invited me to participate here. My family and I were at GameStop, and we were just looking at some Xbox games or some PlayStation. And the kids, okay, fine, everybody can get one game. I don't care. Daddy's rich today, apparently. And so we're looking around, and my 11-year-old asks for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And I said, yeah, you're out of your mind. It's just not going to happen, buddy. We only play good games in my house. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That is not what I said.
I was going to say, most on this particular panel might agree with you on that one.
I am not a Call of Duty fan either, but I told him no. I said, you're out of your mind. You're 11 years old. You're not going to be playing that. And I had this mother off to my right with like two boys that had to have been my boy's age or younger. And she like kind of gave me this smile, and I'm like, oh man, we just had like a good parenting moment, right? She gave me that you're a good dad, and I know what you're saying, and I'm a good mom smile, and I thought we were on the same page, and life was good. We were raising some people that weren't going to be hooligans, and we go up and we're paying for our stuff, and she did not buy her kids Call of Duty 3. I was very proud of her. She bought them Far Cry 3 instead. So.
Big improvement.
I know. It ruined it. It hurt my soul. And the story doesn't really have a point other than I just really wanted to tell it because I felt so bad. I was like, man, parents are where it is at. Don't blame the ESRB and gaming. Blame parents. And anyway, I felt really bad, but it's a good game. Just not for an 8-year-old.
Wait a minute. Wait. We're gonna have to talk to our kids now. Screw that.
Yeah.
You forgot your soapbox here.
I did. Well, that's because I tripped getting off of it earlier, so I didn't want to get on. But I thought, we had this good parenting moment. It was awesome. Like, had I been a single guy, I would have been like, hey, I want to come over and play Call of Duty when the kids are asleep. I would have done something like that. But then Far Cry 3 for an 8-year-old, it's just, parenting is what bugs me the most. At some point, yes, it's going to be this family thing, and this notion that you don't know how to interact with people is going to go away, but only if parents start doing their job.
Here. I wish I could, I had a big, exclamation point or sparklers to be like, yeah, totally agree, woo!
Nice. I just got a plus, and we're not even done yet.
As a teacher, I shouldn't be hearing about my kids that are playing, Call of Duty, and I say my kids, they're my students. I do not have children of my own. Teaching is enough for me. And, when I teach 11 and 12-year-olds and they're playing Call of Duty or they're playing Battlefield or they're playing Borderlands, and it's like, while I, as an adult, think that some of those games are awesome, they're totally not appropriate. And, yeah.
And it's like those parents, they're always like, I love that they'll look at a new movie that's being advertised and their kid will say something. It's like, absolutely not. You're not watching that. Go play Far Cry 3.
Oh, no, my kids my students get to go see, they're all excited. They want to go see that, Mama movie or, some other nasty movie where I see the previews. And I'm like, ugh, that looks disgusting. Then again, I'm not somebody who likes to be scared. So those don't appeal to me. But I see these ads for these movies, and I'm like, oh, that's gross, or oh, why would anybody want to go see that? And my students are all like, oh, yeah, so you want to go see this new gross, disgusting, inappropriate movie that's coming out on Friday? And I'm like, facepalm.
So, yes, it will be normal. I think that, again, this is one of the parts of the stereotype that's going to leave with age, as the generation that has no idea what a single-player game was gets to our age.
Yeah, don't get me started on the death of the single-player experience. we already had a topic on that.
Well, that's kind of it brings up a good question, though. Is the whole gamer stereotype something that anybody that's growing up now in their early teens, is it anything that they're even aware of? Or is it just our age group that has an issue with this stereotype? Do the people behind us even realize that it's a stereotype? I think it's an interesting question, maybe a little too in-depth for the amount of time we have now.
I'll just give my take on it. I think part of it, like Mike and Gilleous, you both said that it's part of it's a generational thing. I think once the demographic that was, gamers in the early 90s to, wherever we may be in our age group now, for demographics, as we become those that are doing, the hiring and whatever within various companies, I think that stigma won't seem to be as a big of a deal to the younger generation of gamers, where it is with us, because, well, we tend to be treated as like this socially inept and socially awkward people. And, it's just, I think a lot of it will be a generational thing. I think a lot of it, though, is just that. And I lost my train of thought.
I'm being bad in chat.
It wasn't me this time. Yay!
I'm the guest and I'm misbehaving in chat.
No, we do not know when the Human Centipede games come.
Son of a... I'm trying to get a release date, and Google keeps throwing all kinds of weird things at me.
I wonder why.
You know what? I'm just gonna ignore that and continue on. I think at any point, though, there's always going to be those, and maybe it will stop when our generation gets, quote unquote gets older. I mean, everybody's going to get older.
It's dead.
But I mean, I hate, and even as I'm like thinking about this, I'm like, do I even want to say this? Do I even want to say this? But you know, when I go to anime conventions or I go to sci-fi conventions or things like that, you know, those people that you see, and they are what we all think of as the, you know, stereotype for those genres. And you're just like, oh my goodness, you are not doing the rest of us a favor. But I mean, I think there, no matter what it is, you know, whether it be, you know, bodybuilders or, you know, chefs or teachers or, you know, gamers or people that watch anime or comic book fans. I mean, I think there is, you know, there is always that, and maybe that's not, it's not always going to be the case, but there is still that stereotype, you know, perpetuated out there. And now I'm even like, should I even say this? Because there are people that out there that absolutely love this show and are probably going to hate me for saying this, but you know, the fact that the Big Bang Theory kind of perpetuates that nerd stereotype. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we keep addressing it as that these people are, you know, oh, well, they're smart and they're into, you know, science and, you know, oh, science is nerdy and that kind of thing. Okay, well, because I have a master's in science education, does that make me nerdy? Fine, so be it. But yeah, I think if we keep perpetuating that stereotype, whether it be in entertainment or what have you, we're going to keep having that.
You're such a nerd.
I know.
Going to conventions.
Yep.
I know.
But
It's funny you brought the Big Bang Theory up because I'm in the sciences. I'm a biologist. Well, burnt out biologist, but nonetheless, no one in my department looked like those people. No one in the physics department looked like those people. And all the gamers I know in real life don't look like those people.
who is it that said that the Big Bang Theory is like the blackface of nerddom or something like that?
It was a Scientologist, I think, or something.
Okay. Listening to that, I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, actually, you know what? He's got a point. Even though I do own all 5 seasons, I can see where it might come off like that.
I actually enjoy the show, but I mean, yeah, but it's like, no, that's not how we look like in the sciences.
What do you feel that gamers, the gaming industry, and the gaming community can do to better show gaming as a social activity?
More LAN parties. Get everyone together and film that, because, you know, that will encourage other people to kind of, you know, get together a little bit more and feel some kind of unity, or, you know, start some clubs or something like that. There's a lot of clubs on Meetup that I'm actually gonna check out, because a lot of them are for video gamers, and they have like tournaments and stuff like that. So I'm gonna check that out. But, you know, in order to kind of beat this thing, I mean, even though I don't have internet and can't get online anyway, you know, that's one way. You know, find some clubs to join a group of people who share the interest that you do. And, you know, shoot some video of your tournament or get-together or LAN party or whatever. And that, you know, just, you know, that could encourage people. So, yeah, that's my thing.
There's a group out here. Actually, they're worldwide, but, you know, anybody who plays Resident Evil knows about Umbrella. And, yeah, there's a group here in Denver. And, you know, they're Umbrella Corp Denver, and they do a lot of great fundraising for, like, Wounded Warrior Project, the American Red Cross, and things like that. And they get together, dress up like Umbrella guys, and every time I meet up with them, I have toilet paper glued to my face with congealed blood because I dress up as a zombie, and, yeah, good times. But so I get to meet, you know, I've met some really cool new people from doing this, and it's video game related. So I may not play video games while I meet up with them, but it is video game related.
I think you guys kind of took what gamers can do, but I think from company perspective, this is already sort of shifting, and I think Nintendo happens to be at the forefront, right? I mean, when's the last time you saw a Nintendo Wii or Wii U commercial that didn't have a family all playing together, or 4 or 5 adults sitting around as a party playing their system? I think the the social aspect of gaming is reaching the companies to the point where now the advertising is starting to shift that way too, to show it as a social activity. So not just on our end, I think it's changing on their end too, based on the way we play it.
I agree.
I think there needs to be a healthy balance, though, between the way, as you said, Nintendo goes about it. There needs to be a healthy balance between, there need to be those games that encourage, that social activity and having people come over to play, but still remaining true to their fan base and not trying to make games solely just for a social aspect of it, too. So it's, to have a healthy combination of the two.
I totally agree, 100%.
Well, what's funny is you were mentioning what Nintendo is doing, but what I think is kind of funny is that the other companies, though, seem to be more focusing on playing online, almost as in, play with your friends online. So I don't know if that is necessarily the best direction to take it. I mean, it's still encouraging social, just net social, but it's kind of weird, though. I do like Nintendo's approach maybe a little better in that department.
Yeah, just if all the games weren't crap, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. That's an issue. That's a completely different issue altogether.
I was going to say, shovelware is a completely different topic.
I was trying to avoid it, but I was
saying I was just going to wrap up as saying that what's ironic, though, I think socially people are starting to accept the concept of online socializing. So maybe, like I said, the route the other companies take, like play with a friend online, might not be necessarily a bad route, but it's still kind of weird because when you think about it, it still kind of gives you the mental image of the person who's by himself. But I think we're slowly moving away from the stereotype that, or not the stereotype, but what I meant to say, we're slowly moving away from the concept that socializing online is only for the nerds.
I think esports actually helps this, to your point too. Especially like the high visibility stuff. League of Legends was, what was it, like 1.6 million pairs of eyeballs on that? Mm-hmm. I think that definitely helps out, to your point.
I think that it makes a really great point about, social interaction isn't stigmatized as much anymore. I think, the fact that, when we see Match.com and eHarmony and Christian Mingle and, Plenty of Fish and, all these people that are meeting, online and dating, it's not so weird anymore. And so the fact that, playing online isn't as weird. But I think if we want to get back to having a face-to-face social interaction while we're gaming, game companies need to have a local co-op built into games. Being able to play online, with my friend in, Guatemala, great. But if I want to play local co-op, in Dead Space 3 with my husband, can't do it. Have to have two systems. You know what I mean?
Right.
If we want to still have that, and game manufacturers still think that that's an important aspect and that's what consumers still want, then they need to provide it.
I think there needs to be, the game industry in and of itself can do a better job of, I think the game companies could do a better job pushing more of an equal approach for co-op and online. Sony and Microsoft tend to focus too much on, play with your friends online, and that's, the only way they want you to interact socially with other gamers is through the net. Whereas Nintendo tends to take the, family living room approach. At least that's what they advertise, not necessarily because I think, I don't know about the new Nintendo system, but I know on their prior gen system, friend codes suck, and that's the only thing I can say. As far as my interaction with Nintendo's online system. So, it really, they need to focus more on a more balanced approach. Hey, Blizzard, specifically, the guys who make StarCraft, we want fucking LAN.
But their online service
sums up the hour nicely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just love it that every time it's brought up, they're always like, but our online service is so good, you don't need LAN. They always like repeat that rhetoric.
Okay, then don't give me a fucking error 37.
Say it to them. Don't say it to me.
I am.
Do you want a soapbox, or are you good?
I think I stole Rachel's and Mike's.
Hey, I don't think when you're yelling at Activision Blizzard that you need a soapbox. I think they're used to it by now that you just say it to them. It's okay.
Yeah, they just don't even get me started. Anyway. So, with that being said, that's some of the things we think the gaming companies, industry, community, and gamers as a whole can do to help fix some of the lack of local co-op and a better balance. But before we wrap up, are there any games that you are currently playing, have, or looking forward to that have some type of either local co-op or internet-based multiplayer?
I just, you know what? I'm just going to dive right in.
I'm sorry.
I think he applies. You should mention which one.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes, actually a huge one, SimCity, coming out March 5th. And there's less of a focus on you and just your city, but you and the cities around you in your region, and that can be played by other players. So like all of us could have our own city, and we're all, you might be responsible for power, and we'll buy the power off of you rather than have to pollute our cities with that, and we'll take care of waste management. I mean, and you have to be online all the time, which that's another discussion for another time. But yes, huge social component there, especially with a core group of your friends. You want to create a nice little region and work the cities together.
See, me actually I have several. Coming out soon, there's StarCraft 2, and apparently, if Blizzard is to be believed, they're actually trying hard to make it more people who are less competitive but do want to play online and play like unranked matches or stuff like that. They're apparently making it more accessible, so it's not always these league match ladder games. So that's obviously online. Also, I'm a big Paradox fan, so they're releasing one of their newest strategy game, March of the Eagles. Basically, it's Napoleonic Wars, but because it's a limited time scale, the Paradox games are one of those games that take like years to play, but this one, sort of because of the limited time scale, is actually a bit more friendly to play it multiplayer online with other people, because you could probably get a game done within like a full night.
I was sold on Napoleonic Wars. That might make me sound like a really huge nerd, but yeah. I love the Bernard. I love the Bernard Cornwell series, the Sharp series, but taking place during the Napoleonic Wars. History's my thing. So. Well, I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be playing some Dead Space 3 co-op, and making use of my brand new gaming laptop. So I'm going to be playing some EverQuest 2, doing some totally sweet crafting to get my provisioning up to level 95. I know, so fun.
Well, I am not like you guys, so I am not going to be really picking up much of anything except for a lot of old school games. So I have my Super Mario World here with a second controller if anybody wants to come over. Got Mega Man X on the way, so I'm waiting for that. And yeah, if I could ever get a decent connection, maybe I'll get back online with Halo, or maybe even, Mass Effect 3, because I've got a Krogan that I would like to level up. So, yeah.
You're welcome for the dig, Rachel.
If you're a Mega Man fan, did you get the Street Fighter vs. Mega Man for the anniversary free download?
No, that was on PC, and I don't have a PC.
Oh, man.
I have a Mac.
Oh,
Boom!
oh, I'm sorry.
Hey.
I had to.
Knock it off.
Nope.
I am a Mac
never.
user, and it hasn't let me down once in like 7 years, so back off.
Tandies are great.
Can I get a next?
Oh, God.
Oh, wait, didn't Apple buy them?
No comment.
Oh, wow. I think some of the games I'm looking forward to that have co-op built around them are Path of Exile is one that I'm looking forward to. I played a little bit of it. Very Diablo 2.5-ish. But other than that, there's really not many games that's from a local co-op. Oh yeah, Torchlight 2 as well. Other than that, there's really not much on the horizon for me that I'm looking forward to for a multiplayer aspect. PlanetSide 2 I liked, but on the same note, it was kind of... I played the first one for 5 years, so the new one's kind of still needs some tweaking. But other than that, anything else anybody has to add?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm still plugging away at No Hope in Resident Evil 6 because it's a bitch.
No.
It's called No Hope for a reason.
And so I guess that is it for this podcast. I want to thank all our guests for joining us. I want to thank Mike from mmobomb.com joining us, and all the people from HTL as well joining us. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the HoldTheLine.com podcast. If you have questions, comments, and concerns, please leave a message on our gaming forums at HoldTheLine.com. You can also find our podcast at holdtheline.com.podbean.com for our RSS feed. You can also search for us on iTunes at holdtheline.com. I would also like to remind our listeners to check out Genesee Gray and the Gray Area podcast. And for our tabletop gaming fans, make sure you check out Death, D4, Dishonor, which is streamed right from Twitch TV, right to you on our forums at holdtheline.com. Remember, we're holding the line for gamers.